Hi, Rhonda. Welcome to Quantum Alchemist Master Podcast. Even the little setbacks that we've had for connecting, I am so glad that you're here, and I'm very excited to hear your story. So, whatever you would like to share with us is more than welcome in this space. I'm sure everybody is waiting to hear about you.
Okay. Well, thank you, Rosalia. Thank you for inviting me as your guest. I'm excited to be here. And when I saw the name of your podcast, Quantum Alchemist, Alchemy, because I am an alchemist. I'm an alchemist, I'm a coach, I'm a speaker, I'm a writer. But alchemy is what we obviously have in common. And actually, I'm originally from the East Coast, Connecticut. And I was in California quite a few years and making my way back to Connecticut within the next few months. And I'm in a work project right now in Colorado Springs.
Okay, beautiful.
So um, let's start there. Alchemist. And so many people say, what what do you do? I said, well, an alchemist, a coach, a lifestyle empowerment alchemist, coach, speaker, and writer. And they look at me like, huh? I go, well, alchemy, is the precursor to chemistry. Not that I at all have any left brain ability. Okay, I'll take that back. I may have a little, but I am not a left brain person. I never took chemistry. I opted, I think it was environmental science when it came time to do that. And but we are all alchemists if we know it, whether we know it or not. And it's essential to know that because I believe that it's the joys, the good stuff, and the not so good stuff that lets us live the life we desire, that lets us live an empowered life, perhaps the life that we dream about. So I grew up on the East Coast and I had a stay at home mom, very traditional family, and a dad who preferred mom stay at home. I'm the oldest of three brothers and one sister. Until about through third grade, I would say, I lived in what we call an extended family. So it was parents, my siblings, grandparents, aunts, great aunts. I think there was an uncle there at one point. So 13 people for a time under the same in the same household under the same roof. So lots of love and lots of discipline, one way or another. And because I'm the oldest of five, I took on the role of nurturer and wanting to nurture others. And the household was primarily female, so that sense of love and nurturing from primarily, my mom, my aunts, my great aunts, my grandmother, yes. So it was all that put together that led me into the field of being of service to others. I got interested in psychology. That's what I did. Counseling psychology, educational psychology, and went through, got my master's degree, all in Connecticut. And I did that for a while. I was a psychotherapist for quite a while. And then in 2005, I made the switch to alchemist coach, understanding that, yeah, the client should really take responsibility for their health and well-being, for living the life that they desire. And again, I have plenty of credentials, including the International Coaching Federation. However, my best credentials are that I have come out on the other side of stuff that was traumatic, stuff that was that not so good stuff. And I had it serve me rather than anything less. And that not so good stuff included incarceration in a women's federal prison camp, breast cancer, several divorces, and financial ruin. But I'm still here. I'm still here because obviously God, I call it God, whatever you call it, universe, source, spirit, the divine, had bigger plans for me. And the plan was to let people know that they are not alone with that not so good stuff that they are going through and to help them help themselves. So that's a brief introduction to me. And you may ask me whatever you'd like to ask me, and we'll
So
take
that's
it.
very heavy. Let's start unpacking that a little bit. So
Right.
first of all, I feel very empowered just by the tone of your voice, by your vibration, by your frequency, by your energy for those that are going to be looking at this video, because I can see that you are the embodiment of what you're speaking about.
Yes.
So you just, your energy just automatically transfers over, and it's very palpable. You could really, really feel that. So thank you for your presence in the podcast today. I'm sure I'm doing tons of healing by just having this conversation right here. So I am blessed. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Because as healers, that's how we heal. We help others help themselves.
Yeah. So I want to start there. I usually tell people in the programs that I run, which is probably similar to somewhat to what you do, which is a 90-day transformation where we take responsibility. And I always say it's like radical responsibility. And responsibility, I break it into two: response and abilities, or ability to respond to whatever happens to us, to life, to circumstances, to whatever. Um, and I always empower people that we have the power to co-create with source, whatever that may be for you. And it is really going within to find that strength, that power to co-create that. But I'm sure in your journey, as well as probably mine and many others, it wasn't always like that. You know, it was a road to get to that place. So for those starting out, and it's fine, we're not judging anyone. We have walked the path. This is why, and we still are. We're always evolving and learning. But for those that maybe are dealing with a lot of victim, tendencies, or behaviors and patterns and addictions, and they're just kind of like in that loop, that you feel like you just can't get out no matter what you do, that you're
Yes.
just in that loop. What would you say for those people? Or maybe you want to put an example from your own journey, like how were you able to get out of that loop? Like even being in prison, let's just take that into account, because in my book, that's a big problem to have. So how were you able to deal with that mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually?
Well, what I would say to others in whatever their circumstance or event is, whatever they happen to be going through, number one, you are not alone. You're not. You're just not alone. You may feel alone, and you may feel like the roof is falling in on you. And in my early 40s, that was the last place I expected to be, in a women's federal prison camp. It was a camp. It was no bars or anything like that. But still, for a while, that stigma, convict, okay, on my forehead. And I began, however, there, it took about a year being in this prison camp with 300 women. Just imagine that. And understanding, not understanding that why I was there, but I was there for a reason. There are no accidents, coincidences, or happenstances. No. I was there for a reason. It did take about a year for me to stop hitting the phone against the wall and saying, "Get me out of here. I don't belong here." And one day, in a phone call, there were 15-minute phone calls, and then that switched. It was less, but very difficult to parent in a 15-minute phone call from prison camp. However, I did stop hitting the phone against the wall, and I remember it like it was yesterday. And there it is. There's my aha breath. I call it my God breath. It's a confirming breath. And I remember just saying aloud, "Oh, well." And that began my journey of surrender. That began the journey of surrender, pivoting me right back to be in service to others. Because my purported crime, which was later my sentence was expunged after 6 years in there, the nonviolent, non-drug related. So I was there for a reason. I was actually doing wellness classes for
So give
women.
me 1 second. How long were you there again for?
6 years.
I just wanted to make sure that I heard that correct.
Yes. I look at it as 6 of my birthdays, my daughters, all of my family, 6 of every holiday that there was. I didn't like it. But the thing that helped me, you asked me that early on, was that somehow I found a gift and I found a blessing in that situation. And I took it. I took that gift and I took that blessing and I began to peel the onion skin away, peel it down to who my true self is. Self with a capital S. Self, our authentic power from within, the power to thrive and not merely survive. That was the journey I was on. And, God was trying to catch my attention long before. It started with the pebbles, then a 2x4, and then the brick. That was a big brick. That was a major timeout for me. Major timeout. I was extremely humbled, and I needed it.
Can you tell us about that? Is it possible?
Sure. My quote unquote crime had to do with, oh, look at that. I like the little baby.
Thank you.
Dog spelled backwards is God.
What? I hadn't even stopped to to realize that. Thank you for pointing that out.
So I found myself in a situation that was totally unbelievable to me. And as I recall it, I began to recall certain things when I changed the brand of my company. Fix your reflection first and live your best life ever is my company. And I am beginning to offer now a 90-day turn yourself around. Why do your 12 months? Let's do 12-week segments with respect to living your best life ever. So all during this period that was like the surreal to me, I never had a traffic ticket. So there was a long range of events that caused what it caused, and I find myself in California being arraigned. Okay, and it was only by God's grace that what happened. I was released with an ankle bracelet, and then began the turmoil of, my gosh, this is like for real. This is very much real, very, very scary as well. And my daughter was 14 at the time.
If you don't mind me asking, who was taking care of your children while that was happening?
I have one, my sister and my ex-husband at that time. So I find myself in this situation, and though it was totally incredible, it was one blessing happened after another for me. And I truly mean that. I just began to develop this strength. I began to work, my spiritual muscles were working even before I knew they were working. That subconscious mind of mine. Well, she was in there, she was rooting for me. And it ended up in a trial back in Connecticut. That's where my charges are from. I was living in California at the time. And there were so many things that we put paperwork in for a dismissal. Everything fell by the wayside. Everything was rejected because, I didn't like it at that time. But then I came to know I'm supposed to be here. I'm supposed to be here to not only learn about myself, but help others learn about themselves. Again, pivot it right back into being of service to others. And lo and behold, I made a life there. I was in a camp to begin with, but then I was sent to the Presidio in San Francisco 5 days a week, 5 of us, for gardening, for things that you wouldn't expect. We didn't make license plates or anything like that. And it was like, okay, I really don't like why that I'm here, but I am blessed. I always had a track to run on. I'm an avid runner. I've been a runner for 49 years. I had a track. I started giving wellness classes, not only physically, but emotionally for the women in there. And I was okay because I was doing what I was meant to be doing. And I was being of service to others. And I would always remark, I said, wow, I'm in here with all these women. Like they could be sisters, a couple, or like a daughter to me. And I was like a mom to them, grandmothers, literally in there. And I learned as well what I had always believed. When you remove the matriarch from the family, devastating, devastating. Not that men don't matter, okay? But when you remove the solidarity of the mom from the family, that's a path to destruction for many families. And the statistic at that time, I mean, there were so many women incarcerated, and I read a lot, I did a lot of research, that near over 66% of people incarcerated were women.
That's a big percentage.
That's a big percentage. And the recidivism rate, those that return, was nearly 70%. So I wasn't giving interviews at that time, but I remarked in things that I had written, we might as well just put bars around the United States. I mean, what's going on? So I got over that. I wasn't on a soapbox at all because of that. I helped those that wish to be helped.
Can we
And
pause there in that quote for a moment? Do you mind?
yes,
Because the same thing happens to me with people. And it took me a while, even with my family, to come to that understanding. There's a lot of what our soul chose for us to experience as well. And it takes some time, or it did for me, to understand that we're all walking our path. We all have different timing. We all have a different way of viewing the universe, the world, whatever it is, our own lens of perception of life. And I have taken kind of like a step back and just allowed for the universe to bring to me those that want the help, and not be upfront like, oh, hey, here are these tools or this resources, or maybe read this book, or like, because you just can't help but to want to share with everyone, right? So it takes a little bit to learn how to navigate those waters. But what you just said is so powerful, because it can only be, you can't force a horse, right? What's that saying, to drink water?
of the water would
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So that's very, very powerful. Thank you for pointing that out.
And the other thing too is because I am a nurturer, I think most women are. Okay. Again, not that men aren't, but I had to learn that it is not my right nor my obligation to want for someone, whether it's a family member or a client or an audience, want for them what they do not want for themselves. Not my right nor my obligation. Shame on me. I told you I was humbled. And I stick by that. So this program now that it'll be open, in a matter of a week, but it's not for the faint of heart. I think you know what I mean. I mean, we're gonna do some work. And I literally help you help yourself. Because you have that power. We all do. Our innate power, the authentic power from within. I call it my godling self, not merely my earthling self. And we all have it. And that's why I'm dedicated to awakening hearts, minds, and most especially spirit to the power from within. So I don't mince words. Okay, I'm very kind, I'm very loving, I'm very compassionate. I love dogs. And but I don't, the escapades in my life, I call them escapades sometimes, that not so good stuff, have given me the right to say to someone, what is it that you're complaining about? I mean, I could be a lot more vocal and you can cut it out if you want, but sometimes I will even say, I'm not sitting here so I can take the hair across your ass. That's
Yeah.
it. Got a
Say
hair
whatever
across.
you want. We say
Yeah.
curse words and whatever in the show. It doesn't matter. I
My,
don't cut
yeah,
anything out.
this is the East Coast is coming out now, and the authentic power from within is coming out. So I can't deal with that with people that, because they have a hair across their ass, they're falling apart. Okay, it's okay if you fall apart. That's fine. But you have to understand that you must do the work. As a psychotherapist, I have this toolbox. As an alchemist, I have this toolbox. I got plenty of tools. But if you don't use them, it's like people that buy self-help courses and they never use them.
Oh my God. Can we pause for that in there
Yeah,
for a second?
you pause, yes.
I have had hundreds of people come across my program and I could see if they're doing it or not. Like I can see their progress. It's, I don't want to say don't BS me, but like I can literally see how many modules you did, what percentage you completed. 10% of people complete it.
Yeah.
10% of people complete it. The amount of value of information I'm sure you have in those programs are worth infinite. I mean, there's no amount. You would be able to charge over $1 million for the one course that you're having on there, except you don't. You choose to make it available to most, and you
Right.
choose to give it. But again, we come back to, are you ready? If you've hit a brick wall, if you're like, at least in my journey where I was, and I'm sure some of the stuff that you've mentioned, you're gonna do it
Mhm.
because you need to, because there's no other way. You're not going to give yourself another option. You only have option A. So
That's right.
yeah, yeah. Thank you for pointing that out. Sorry, go ahead. It's a pet peeve of mine that people have the resources and they don't use it.
Yeah.
And it's a shame. It's a shame because your life can transform so much quicker or so fast. I mean, your soul literally just chose to come down, reincarnate, go through hell, okay, on earth to show others it's freaking possible no matter your situation. You're sharing it. You have a program. You're giving all the tools. And yet we can be quiet enough to listen
Right.
or to follow directions or to follow the breadcrumbs back home, back to our soul, back to ourselves.
And to understand that if people are going through whatever you happen to be going through, whatever tunnel you happen to be journeying down, that light is not a train coming at you. That light is the guidance, it's the blueprint, it's the wherewithal to utilize your authentic power from within and move forward in your life to live your best life ever. And that's what an alchemist? What's an alchemist? Well, this is what I do. I take the joys as well as the shit in people's lives because I've done it with my own and help them live their best life ever, whatever that may happen to be. And that changes. Best life ever it's not simply financial. Abundance is not simply financial. That's the least of it. So I'm going to show you, and don't tell me that I don't know what I'm talking about. Okay. Let's just part as friends because we're not for each other. This isn't a mate. This isn't a marriage. This isn't any mating going on here. Because I'm one person, you're one person. Those of us that are healers, we're only one person. We can't do it for someone else. I can change me. Watch how everything changes around me with my family and with colleagues, with people that I've shed because of the experience that I've gone through, experiences. So it's really important to understand, to know you're not alone, and to take responsibility, whatever that may happen to mean, and to trust your intuition. The God of my understanding is right here. Our emotions, there's two emotions, fear and love. No more emotions. Only fear and only love. That's it. So if you're living in fear, you're going to create certain thoughts, which will create your external world. If you're living in love, you're going to create other thoughts, which will create your external world. And it sounds so simple. It's simple, but it's not easy. That's why none of this, life is not for the faint of heart. And life, I'm tired. Oh, you know what happened in my life, that caused me to be this victim. And I've been a victim for the last 20, 30, 40 years. What do you mean? What happened? Well, what happened? You got divorced? I got 3 under my belt. And now they all want me back. And so anyway, that was my cycle of breaking patterns that do not serve me. That's why it was important. Fix my reflection first. I'm not telling you anything new. Mirror work has been around for ages. I look in the mirror every morning. How are you today? You look great. I love you, Rhonda. I like you, Rhonda. And I go through the scenario of whatever I'm going to say, and whatever I'm manifesting on any given day. And I feel like a winner. There was a while I would look in the mirror, I felt very downtrodden with everything happening to me now. And I went back to when I was charged with what I was charged with. My first attorney wanted me to plead guilty. I'm going to get you a deal. Well, I don't know what that means. What do you mean?
Wow.
Well, I want you to do this. I said, basically, you want me to throw people under the bus? I said, no, you know why? Because I got to look in my mirror. I didn't even realize what I was saying at that point. I got to look in my mirror every morning and look at me. So I'm not going to do that to others. And then it went on and went on and went. But I learned a lot. I learned a lot about myself. There was not one day, as well as in my other escapades, that I did not laugh nor cry. And laughter and tears are a sign of growth. If you're not laughing, you're not crying, then you're not growing. And you might want to think about that.
Thank you so much for pointing that out. Honestly, I can't even imagine what you went through, but your journey is so impactful. I really hope the listeners it really allows them to use you as a mirror to reflect back into their life and their circumstance and say, okay, if she literally, got her lotus out of the mud, out of whatever situation, so can I. So can I. I'm not even anywhere near or close to her situation.
Right.
And having your guidance is so important and so valuable, especially you going through all of these things. I don't know what percentage of people get divorced, but it's very high. And you've been through 3 of those so far. And I'm sure, let me tell you something. At this stage in your life, I'm sure you can speak to people about anything. Addiction, whatever. I mean, you name it, relationships, self-worth, whatever it may be. I'm sure you're like a 360. Yeah.
Bring it. Come on. What do you want to tell me?
Yeah, what is it?
Heard it all. I probably lived most of it. So please.
Yeah. So if somebody was listening to this and wanted to get into is it a 90-day program? I don't want to confuse it with my 90-day. Is it 90-day too?
I call it 12
The 12 week. Okay. So
if first and live your best life ever. And it's 2 hours. Once it's done.
Tell us more about it. Is it like a group session? Is it a one-to-one? Is it pre-recorded modules? Like what can we expect from the program?
Yes, it's 12 weeks of me in the group. I'm taking 15 to begin with, 15 women. 12 weeks, 2 hours per week. And in addition to that, there are discounts on my individual coaching. There's some free coaching in there as well. But you must do the work, and you will learn. You're going to learn how to go within and identify and extricate that power that you have. Because I guarantee you don't even know you have it. You know there's something there because you're saying, yeah, enough is enough. Okay, I think I'm ready. I'm not sure, but I think I'm ready. That means you're gonna, once you get out of your comfort zone, that's where life begins. Come on. I've been out of my comfort zone. And the interesting part of all of that is I've always believed that circumstances that we go through prepare us for the next. So here I am in women's federal prison camp, minding my own business, role model to others. And I know I have a lump on my breast. But I also know that I'm not going to get the right treatment. And I'm also in disbelief because I'm a runner, I'm an athlete, never took any street drugs in my life, never smoked. And it's like, okay, what's next? But I kept everything at bay, a lot of prayer, a lot of meditation, a lot of reading, because I said, well, all I need to do is get home and take care of this. And I was good with that. I was good with it. I was still scared. There's a difference between fear and being scared. I
Can
was
you tell
scared.
us more about that difference? Do you mind,
Yeah,
or how you
no, not
perceive?
at all. Fearful means if you're fearful, then you're really not accepting that scaredness. And I don't believe in that. I don't believe in shoving the emotions down because you know what? They're going to erupt at the most inopportune time. It's like the toilet overflowing when you have a house full of guests, literally. So don't shove the emotions. Feel the emotions. Hey, I know sadness. I know anger. I know resentment. I know non-forgiveness until I got smart about living an empowered life and was grateful for those situations that I was in, as well as forgave who I have to forgive, including myself. So the difference between being scared and being in fear is like you're immobilized. Never mind about making a decision to get out of your comfort zone and live your best life ever.
Yeah,
You're paralyzed.
that freeze response, that sympathetic nervous system, that fight or flight.
Yeah. So feel your emotions, but understand you don't need to react by just being in fear. You can respond. Aha, breath. That's that God confirming breath again. And that's a confirming breath for me. And I don't mind sharing that at all with
Oh,
anybody.
sure. Go ahead. Do you mind walking us through it, or if you want?
Well, a lot of people have asked me, many have asked me, how did you know? Like you surrendered? I said, well, I didn't. I said, my subconscious mind knew, but I really didn't know. But I did know that I was feeling better about myself. I was feeling freer. I always say I had to be imprisoned, incarcerated in order to be liberated. Very freeing, very freeing.
They're so powerful. You know, I'm sorry to interrupt you there, but I am in contact with Alan, that he was incarcerated as well in New York, and he brought meditation into a lot of the prison systems in New York. And now I'm trying to get together with him to see how I can bring breath work and meditation, but at a larger scale, and get it into, just kind of like statewide or something.
Yes.
And just make it more readily available. Maybe have a free online program for people that are in a 12-step program or in prison, that they can access and learn how to do this, or with a guided, just like baby steps, right? So they can kind of come into this and start reprogramming their subconscious mind, so that then they can really start making those changes. I would love to speak more to you about that like after,
Yes.
and just maybe hear some insights or tips about your experience, and maybe how we can somehow make this work. It's just a vision. It's nothing else just
That's where
yet.
it is, my dear. That's where it begins. But and I will go on about that, about just went, okay, 11 months before release, I've got a lump on my breast. Okay. Then my release was delayed. Okay. But all things I've forgiven. And I remember the day that I went to a halfway house for a short period of time, and they found out I had a lump on my breast because I told them, and they couldn't wait to get rid of me. So I went to my own doctors in California and scared, still scared, but not in fear, not immobilized. And of course, was diagnosed with breast cancer in Breast Cancer Awareness Month, of course, October and of 2005. And everyone say, well, how did you, what was the biopsy? And I would say, well, it's not the worst news, but it's not the best. And it's not the best, but it's not the worst news. And I got through it. And we're going to talk more about the power from within. So again, I've never taken any street drugs. I don't like surgery. I don't like going to the doctor. I don't like any of that stuff. So I went and saw a medical Qigong person. I had seen my oncologist. I had turned out to be they call him the best breast guy. I was in Monterey at the time, California. Best breast guy in the United States, if not the world. So I got him, okay? This can be chemically treated. And I said, huh? And I told him, even though I've never taken any street drugs in my life, I mean, aspirin was a big thing for me. I said, I like that. We can treat this chemically. Then I thought, really want to do that. All these bouts of, with chemotherapy and then this and that. And again, that was my biggest fear. It wasn't the cancer. It was my biggest fear. I started with the medical Qigong and 3 weeks later, so I delayed. They wanted to start chemo. I delayed. And something just said, delay, do your medical Qigong. I went back to my oncologist and she said to me, and my daughter was standing there, she said, I don't know what you're doing, but you're shrinking your tumor. My daughter's head spun around on her neck and she said, you're buying this shit too? The medical Qigong professional, he said, back to your oncologist. The diagnostics of Western medicine are the best that there are. So I knew I had that fear of going through chemo and whatever else was going to happen. And I just at that time said, well, I know I'm doing this, but I also know I have this fear. And the way to overcome this fear is to go through Western medicine as well as Eastern medicine, which is what I did. Now, I told you I'm a runner, okay? I was running a lot faster in those days. And I was actually running and fast walking while I was going through chemo.
Can I ask you something personal?
Yes.
Did you ever doubt of just going more the Eastern way and not choosing to was that something that crossed your head, like doing any alternative medicines, energy work, plant medicine, like whatever, but was that something you considered?
Let me tell you why I didn't do it solely. My family was having a nervous breakdown at this whole thing. I just been released from prison. And now this. So I didn't. I said, I'm gonna overcome this fear, which I did. And I went through 5 months of chemo. But I didn't have, I think had one side effect. That was it. And I was walking and jogging and, doing other things. Yes, I lost my hair, but people would look at me and say, you look like a prophet with no hair. I said, I'll take that as a compliment.
100%.
And So, and then the day came where, okay, they got to do this thing they call it clean out the margins. So I have a little war scar here, but that's okay. And I was outpatient, get to the surgical center. My daughter took me. And I'm on the gurney and it's a beautiful day. I'm looking at the sunshine and I'm talking. And the OR nurse, who's going to be my OR nurse, she comes, she says, "Are you calling me? Do you need something?" And I said, "No, I was just having a little talk with God." And she knew exactly what I was talking about. This is how much she knew. This is my gift and blessing. Again, a confirmation you're going to be all right, Rhonda. She says, "Oh, your hair is growing back." This is like fuzz. And she pulls back her skull cap and she says, "Maybe it'll grow back as curly as mine did." I like that. Somebody that went through what I went through, and she was now helping others, being of service to others. That was my message. That was like, you're going to be okay because you got to be here. Another blessing. Okay, so I go through all that and I come home and again, I'm weak, but I'm strong in here. The weaknesses that I endured, if they were weaknesses, made me even stronger, made that authentic power even work more, like working the muscles, made me better for everything that was going on. So got through that, got through 40 blasts of radiation. And that was, I'll tell you what, that was tougher than being in prison. Then the devastating effects of, I was divorced early on from my daughter's father, but then one right after another. 2 marriages lasted maybe, I don't know, a year first, and then two and a half second. That was completely devastating because that was like, oh, betrayal. And like, what did I ever do? But long story short, I could never have carried on the work that I am doing, ever, with people that weren't supportive of me or that were threatened, intimidated by me. And I was not nearly this vocal and this energized. Not nearly. So when I look in the mirror now, and I didn't before, I see the love of my life.
Can
It's
we
not that
pause? Can we pause there for a sec? That is so important because a lot of times we're looking for the one outside of ourselves for so long, for that other half, and just meeting your soul, your higher self, God within yourself, consciousness. You as the observer of your life, as the witness um of all the, I think this is just a learning vehicle, basically.
yeah.
Uh because I believe how I perceive it from my near death is
Mm.
um we're just one, right? We're just one, and love is the answer. That's what I always say. Just one loving frequency running through everything and everyone. And just being able to find freedom regardless of your circumstances. That I'm terrible at remembering the sayings. I'm sorry about that. Like flourish wherever you're planted or something similar. I don't
grow,
know.
grow wherever you're planted.
Thanks.
I,
You're correct. All my sayings.
I've lived that. I've lived it. Yeah.
You've lived it. And you're a testament to that. And just being able to have you here and being and having this testimony for eternity, because whatever you put out will always be there. whatever you share with others, wherever whether it's through podcast, books, whichever way we have of communicating with one another, is those breadcrumbs for us to remember to follow again, so that we can basically, I used to say make our way back home, but we're always home. We just can't recall that. It took a long time for me to understand that I wasn't going anywhere. I'm already exactly where I need to be in the now moment every single time. But falling in love with yourself is one of the most beautiful journeys we're ever going to go on. And you bringing light to that, I don't know, that just hit home. That
Yeah, it's, whatever I was trying to avoid, I attracted. No fault of their own. It was mine. It's my doing. We call everything forward. I called forward for whatever reason the wrong choices, poor choices, whether it was prison, whether it was cancer, whether it was failed relationships and financial ruin. Called it all forward so I could learn the lessons. I don't bounce back. I bounce forward.
love that. I, you guys can't feel it, but as I look at her, I am telling you, I feel her energy and I am healing through this conversation because it is at such a deep level that I hope you guys can grasp the depth of every word that has been shared here. Because if you really uh, look at it from the micro to the macro, everything has been touched in this conversation. It all depends on what lenses you're seeing it with.
And I'm thankful for all situations. I really am. The blessing in failed marriages as well. I certainly know what I don't want. And I'm going to be brave and courageous enough to continue my path. This is my journey. Now, I'm not saying I'm not open to love, but it's going to be different. It's got to be different, or else I'll lose myself again. Through all these escapades, I call them my 3 midlife crises. Okay. Through all these times, the biggest devastation for me was that I lost my sense of self with a capital S. Lost.
Can I ask you around what ages these things happened?
Early 40s for the prison. Right at 2005, diagnosed with breast cancer. Since 2006, March 2006, the end of the month, cancer free.
Oh.
And it's like, okay, after radiation and you finished all your treatments, you get to do this thing. You ring a bell. And everyone knows that's being treated that, okay, she rang the bell. That's going to be me someday. I'm going to be okay. Right. And I bounce forward. You probably know what I'm feeling. It's that it's inexplicable, but I'm even smiling. Okay. Now, these are signs of growth. And I also learned, one big thing I learned was that I stopped worrying about what everyone thinks about me.
That's a heavy one. Yeah.
If you're not worried about what you think about yourself, that's a problem. Look in that mirror. Can you look in the mirror? Can you say, you're great? You are wonderful. I believe the most selfless thing a woman can do is be selfish, is self-care, self-love, self-esteem, self-appreciation, self-respect, because we won't get it if we do not put it out there.
Yeah, it's cultivating your garden, your own garden.
Yes, that's how come you grow where you're planted. I have a picture. I've been given so many signs in my journey. So I'm here in Colorado Springs and I'm, jogging now. And I turned 66 last month, and I'm thankful that I'm jogging. Okay, thank you. And I see, it gets cold here, not like in Connecticut, and there's not as much snow here. But in the winter, I saw this, the end of fall, beginning of winter, I saw this marigold, the little marigold plant, probably from a seed. The seed had gone into between the curb and the sidewalk. And I took a picture of it and I sent it to a few people. And one of my sister-in-laws, and she says, "This is the way I feel all the time." I said, "This is your opportunity to grow where you're planted."
100%.
And I am an avid gardener as well. So I know the beauty of pruning. Okay. I know the beauty of pruning. It must be done in order to have a good harvest. It must be. Whatever it is I'm sowing, I take responsibility for it, just as I did in the past. And I move forward. I bounce forward.
Yeah.
And that's the lesson to others.
Yeah. It's so beautiful and so powerful, everything that you have shared. I think I haven't heard about your financial ruin yet. We haven't touched on that yet because it's just like one thing after the other. So it's like
I've remedied that.
it's a lot. Like how did that intertwine with this whole journey? Was it before, after? Like how does that?
During the whole process. You got to spend money for attorneys. Okay.
The whole process. Okay.
The whole process. Medical.
True.
Saying to the last two divorces, take it. I'm out of here. You want a divorce? Fine, take it. I'm not going through this. It's too much toxicity. Take what you want. It all comes back one way or another. It may not come from where you think it's going to come from, but whatever it is, it's love. I scold clients now. I say, "Well, what kind of partner do you want? What kind of spouse?" "Oh, one that doesn't treat me as bad as this one." I go, "Huh?" I go, I can't help you. I can't help you because that's not the way to help yourself. Living that way, speaking that way, thinking that way. Not going to happen. So, and again, if you want joy, be joyful. Find something to be joyful about. You woke up, you put your feet on the floor. You have toothpaste. You have coffee.
Sorry, that's my baby. He'll be on the background for frequency, upgrading frequencies as people listen to us.
Right.
He'll come down in just a bit. Sorry, carry on.
So again, you helping yourself, you must not be a faint of heart. You must understand, okay, all this stuff happened to me. I didn't like it, but now I get to do something about it. And if you can't look in the mirror and say, "No, enough is enough. I need to do something for me."
Can we pause there? Enough is enough. I just want to really you guys to listen to that because I have the changes I've been able to make have been because I got to that point, that low point of enough is enough. When you get to that point, that's when we're ready to open our hearts, when we're ready to change, when we're more flexible, when we're open to a different opportunity. Sometimes we have the opportunity and we just can't see it. We just maybe your gaze is down and you haven't looked up or looked side to side to see what else is available for us to choose from. Enough is enough. I want you guys to remember that. Sometimes I just repeat stuff again and again so that it can make incantations in the neural pathways, and it can really stay in the subconscious mind, hopefully, and get us to think and question everything. I think that's one of the most important things, to get us to question everything, our choices, the programming, our actions, our habits.
And what we are living and what we are holding in our hearts, our minds too, but especially our hearts, is what we are bringing to us, what we are calling forward. It's no accidents, coincidence, or happenstance that you and I met. There's no, it's not, doesn't. And then I didn't even know that your podcast was called Quantum Alchemy. And I said, oh, alchemy, okay. Who said God doesn't have a sense of humor? Okay. I was interviewed by two other people. One said, alchemy, there's a boutique down the street for the alchemy. And I these are little signs, these are nuances that you're in the right place, in the right time, and take it from there. That's it.
Amen.
But that's being open. That's being more than open-minded. It's being open-hearted.
Yeah. So the connection between our minds and our hearts, our right brain and our left brain, our hemisync, is so important, because and look, I'm still dressed in scrubs. I supervise 6 medical offices. I'm a nurse practitioner. And for a very long time, I was operating in my logical left brain, which is okay because it helps us a lot throughout our day-to-day operation. That's beautiful, and I'm grateful to be able to do that. However, because just like faith and like spirituality and that the spirit side of us, that muscle, like you mentioned it, I've never heard it referring to as a muscle, so I love that. Is sometimes the right side, the creative side, that allows us to connect our heart, our intuition, and bring forth this kind of information, guidance, is left untouched. You know, it's in schools when they have to cut budget, art is one of the first things to go. You know, people are trying to survive. You think they're going to pay for art classes or for any type of creativity for their kids? No, they want to put food on the table. So a lot of this things is put on the back end, and we're on survival. We never allow ourselves to be that creative co-creators that we are.
Because we are. And that is our responsibility. That is our gift and our blessing. So use it. We've been given skills, talents, and abilities. Now give back with those. But first, give to yourself. Practice that self-love and self-care. And how do you live an empowered life? I am an alchemist, so I do have a formula. The formula is gratitude plus forgiveness equals living the life you desire, living the life you want to live, perhaps the life that you dream about. Gratitude plus forgiveness. Be grateful for yourself, first and foremost, and whatever you've been through. You've just heard my escapades. And be grateful enough to forgive yourself for possibly poor choices. If they were poor choices, they're not mistakes. There are no mistakes, and we fall so we can get up. That's why we fall, so that we can get up, because we have that power.
100%. So I want to pause and make that and just reinstate that, because a lot of my life changed when I started meaningfully and really waking up with gratitude, which the beginning I wasn't. I just couldn't, because I was going through a very bad depression. But you know what? Even if you're not in the best place, if your circumstances is not the best, try just speaking to yourself differently. Just start. Maybe it's one word, one sentence, or
Right.
maybe it's a mantra that can play as a pattern interrupt for negative thoughts. because it's okay to feel the emotion, bring awareness to that. I don't want you to repress that. It's so important because that's one of the ways that we release and transform and transcend trauma through the body. But how long are you going to be playing out in a victim mindset, holding resentment for 10, 15 years? Like that's going to eat your life. You're drinking your own poison, right? So you want to kind of really play your cards. Like, do I want to be miserable all day, or like I'm going to be sad and cry for an hour and then, okay, let's get back on track here. So whether it's mantras or affirmations, or like right now, my current morning routine is I wake up, I'm working with micro doses of plant medicine. So I always do like my own routine in regards to that, breath work and just prayer. And then the first thing I put in my ear is a gratitude, like a audio.
Yes.
I'm grateful for this morning, for this breath. And it gives you like a lot of like little micro things that you don't think about being grateful for. Like anything, your breath in the morning, the eyesight, like just even the tiniest things that you wouldn't think to be grateful for. And now, even if I don't put the audio on, I wake up and I say it in my mind. Okay, I'm grateful for this and this and that, and it's automatic. So just try to find ways of, and the moment I switched of being grateful and surrendering, my life started changing. It happened just like that. Like
Yeah.
I shifted internally and things outside started shifting. So I think gratitude and forgiveness, 100, I'm 100% with that. 100%.
Gratitude is okay. That everybody knows about that, whether they practice it like we do, but forgiveness is not a popular subject. It's not a popular topic. But you said it before. If you are non-forgiving, you're ingesting poison and expecting the other person to die. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. And non-forgiveness is the biggest incidence. You're in the medical field, and the biggest incidence of ill-being, dis-ease.
My God. Yes, to me, every these ease is rooted in an emotional state, whether it was trauma that you were not able to, and also to me, this ease, even whether it's mental, emotional, physical, whatever it is, your immune system, whatever it is, to me, it's just a coping mechanism.
Yes.
That is all it is. A coping mechanism, whether it was to trauma you were not able to process or express as a child, or needs or wants that weren't met at that time. Maybe the Maslow hierarchy of need was, not stable, and you didn't have the necessary needs at that time. So to me, all of it is a coping mechanism to your environment and to the stuff that happens to us in our life. So we
Yes.
all do the best we can, and we build these responses, whether it's bipolar, schizophrenia, what you're just trying to cope with your environment and the things that are happening to you, and you're building from there these responses to be able to survive in the world. So, but the roots are left untouched.
Yes. You're band-aiding when you're doing that. It's a band-aid. It's not attending. When something is happening to you, and I invite our listeners, when something is happening to you, take a deep breath, do your own breath work, take a deep breath and say, okay, this is what I say. I say, how is this attending to the agenda of my soul? How? And I can answer it. I can do that. I can answer it. And that got me from being a people pleaser, because I was people pleaser, wanted to do everything the way everybody in my family, in my circle of influence, wanted me to do it. No, I don't do that anymore. Please me. That doesn't mean I have disregard for others. I have enough regard for myself. If I can treat myself that way, You know, if you're in my sphere of influence and if I'm in your sphere of influence, you're going to be treated really well by me because I know how to do it. I'm practicing every day on myself. So, how does it attend to the agenda of one's soul, whatever you're going through? Sometimes hard to answer. It's not at all. Well, what is my soul? Do I have a soul? Of course you have a soul. That's the biggest part of you. Your soul is your heart space. Imagine yourself without a heart. You would not be alive if the heart wasn't beating. So let's be nice to our soul, the biggest part of us.
I wanna parenthesis on there if it's okay with you.
Sure.
I feel like there's so much disconnection from our soul and from source within ourselves.
Yes.
Um, I think it doesn't matter where in the multiverse we're experiencing life in the now moment as our soul, just like source itself, it's fractaled into multitude of experiences on its own, and this avatar being one of them.
Mhm.
And all the distractions outside of us, all the environment, it is our responsibility. Um, whether it doesn't matter what the agenda is, because I don't like going into like theories and stuff like that.
Mhm.
But I still do recognize there is a lot of programming and agenda and things that may not be serving us at this point. But ultimately, I do nothing with blaming them for that, which is also part of us, just with a different level of consciousness. And it's still not quite operating from love. What can we do about it? What is the solution oriented thing that we can do here? Um, and it's really work ourselves, change ourselves, be the change that we want to see in the world. That's it.
That's it. That
That's it.
again, it's simple, it's basic, it's not easy because we've been practicing these bad habits of not doing that and not attending to that agenda. You know, I want to mention something very important, especially to us women. I mean, breast cancer is, there is incidence of breast cancer in men as well. However, incidence, this was my hat really turned in 2005 to become the alchemist and to deal with the emotional and the cognitive end of disease. Because being diagnosed with breast cancer, I looked a little closely into it. After all, I was a psychotherapist. I had that hat on at one point. But emotionally, the incidence of breast cancer in women is due to the fact that we cannot nourish and nurture ourselves. We're good at it for everyone else. That's people pleasing. We go, okay, we're good people pleasers. We nourish and nurture others, and nourish others. What about us as women? Again, you remove the matriarch from the family. So couple those two things. Women aren't nourishing and nurturing themselves. They're people pleasing. And they become estranged in one way or another. You don't have many people are in different kinds of prisons. And you're removed. Family is, for me, family is not just blood, and I got a big family. Family is who do I sit down at the table with? That's family as well. And I love to cook, so you can imagine that I like to sit down with others. So think about that as women. Are you nourishing and nurturing yourself? Do you please yourself at all? It's like, maybe that's why you're getting up in a grumpy mood every morning. You know, maybe that's why you're not. Forgive yourself. Forgive yourself for that. I haven't been attending to the agenda of my soul. It's time for me to start. And this is how I'm going to start. Be gentle, be kind to yourself. How do I fix my reflection first? Start with being gentle and being kind to yourself. You can be gentle and kind to others.
I want to share with you, if it's okay, a map of consciousness that came through for me from my guides, because the very last bit of that is self-reflection. So I think it goes right in hand with your legacy, if you want to call it that. And it's just beautiful because it's a confirmation. I take everything as confirmation on
Yes.
on both ends. And like in this conversation, you've given me over, I don't know, I can't even count because almost every sentence is a confirmation. So I'm just so honored.
I am honored. I am honored that you can receive this information. I've had another person that actually Noah referred
Yeah.
me be on his show, and oh, there were so many. This got changed, that got changed, and he's saying, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I have to reschedule." And no, fine. And when we got together, he said those words to me. I was not ready to receive you yet. And that's why there was this cancellation and everything. And he had some, his name is Maurice Filigree, and his name of his podcast is escaping me right now. But he got very emotional in the podcast. And I mean, it's out for the world now. So I'm not saying anything out of school, and he was talking about his trips to the Middle East and a lot of other stuff that like paralleled my life. He was an FBI agent. Okay. Get it? Get where I'm going? And but it was everything. It was like, again, who said God doesn't have a sense of humor? But we just, it was clicking. And I said, Jesus, I'm having so much trouble with this decision, but you've helped me with it. And I said, I held back because it had to do with going to Lebanon. Those were his trips, whatever he's doing there. And I said, would it help you if I told you that I'm Lebanese? I am. He said, yes. Oh my God. And he kept going, oh my God. And this and that. I go, that's because that's no accidents, coincidence, or happenstance. None.
Wow. I literally feel so much love in my heart right now, so much healing, so much peace. I would love for everyone that is listening, for the love of God, please reach out so that you can be in Rhonda's program. Please. This is gonna change her life. I'm serious. She truly embodies, she's authentic, she is genuine, she's loving. I can feel it. And when we've been doing this kind of work, you can spot
Yes.
people in less than 60 seconds. If it's just energy speaks for itself. Um, so open your minds and your hearts to trying something different than everything else you've tried so far. And just is it is it just a link that we can put in the description later, or is it a call that they book through to find out more, or
We'll
how?
put the link in the description later.
Beautiful.
We'll put that. And my website is helpmerhondanow.com. Helpmerhondanow.com. And
Thank you.
peruse it. There's lots of valuable information. It's all free, other than if you take a course. But that's the thing with me. If I have something to leave listeners and viewers with, it's number one, you are not alone. Reach out. If you don't reach out to me, if you don't reach out to Rosilia, reach out to someone. And if you don't know who to reach out to, just listen. Listen to your heart and be aware that someone or something will cross. Don't worry about the how of living an empowered life. The how is coming. Just put it out there. I want to live a better life. Enough is enough. I want to live a better life, and listen, because the how The people, places, situations, circumstances, the resources will come to you. And number two, don't try and avoid it, because running from anything, remember, wherever you go, you take yourself.
And before we wrap this up, I want to say that everything you've said is sounds very true to me, but this particular one, I in my near-death experience, I couldn't run away from myself, from my fears, from my guilt, from my own self-judgment. There is,
Mhm.
you can travel the world, you can die, and you're still, you can't run. So you might as well start now, cultivating that love for yourself. There's nowhere to go. Doesn't matter if you commit suicide, you can't escape it, guys. I hate to tell you from personal experience, it's still going to haunt you. I mean, eventually, yeah, we go through different planes of consciousness, and eventually, you get into a certain level of consciousness and back to source and so on. But you still have to go through that learning, whether it's here or in a different plane, where you have to come to that understanding of loving, accepting yourself, forgiving yourself, not judging yourself, being compassionate with yourself. So you might as well just start here and start today and start now.
This is your enough. Take it. It's a personal invitation. Take it.
Oh, that sounds beautiful to wrap it up. I don't know how you feel about that.
I do, but I have one thing to say.
Go for it.
One thing to say. Ooh, God breath. Yeah, you got to say it, Rhonda. I invite our listeners and our viewers to treat life as if it were ice cream. Enjoy it before it melts.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.